Well, and I think the other thing to remember too, and Mike may shoot me for this, but I think he said it a couple of meetings ago, is, this is not the only opportunity that you have to take action on a budget. You can formally amend a budget at any point during the year. So if we come back, we have historically been able to end, with the exception of the very intentional drawdown in 2010 to fund balance, we have, if you go back and look, I think you'll see that we've added to or held and done better in ending fund balance at the end of the year. So we may very well get to the end of 2012, and this number could be 1.2 or 1.3 million. Right. Which then could change your whole conversation or give you some different options to look at as we bring the rest of the proposals back. And you can always publish an amended budget and take action again if that were to be the case. But
so combining the two does give you more flexibility when coming back. Well, I would be in agreement with that because I think it'd be nice to get closer to where you want to be, and I know you would like to see the overall $300,000 number reduced in order to have more available to provide those merit increases for employees.
Exactly. I just want to make sure that we don't forget to talk about it later too, because sometimes we just forget about that.
And then to go further on that point, what I just heard Laura Smith talk about is we say decrease up to $300,000 with the goal of keeping the fund balance steady, so that way if we do have additional money, we don't have to cut the whole 300, because we understand why that 300 gets there is because we're tying it to fund balance. So as long as we put that in there and specifically state that up to 300 from the general fund budget for the purpose of keeping fund balance steady.
Yes, Jennifer?
I also want to remind you, though, also, Susie, we're not only holding the employees steady, we're increasing the cost of living on the residents and the businesses.
Well, I understand
to
that.
balance this budget.
But who keeps us going?
I understand the staff is awesome, and
I just want to make sure that
but we were also so short that we had to, the solid waste utility fees going up, the storm water's going up for this, and the mill rates for the 7th time on the residents and the businesses.
Mill rates are just for the Rock Creek Drainage District.
Rock Creek Drainage, well, that's true, but that is still two districts.
And that's primarily commercial.
That's primary commercial, but the cost of doing business is is increasing on them. And this is a bad business climate, and it's hard on them, and we're doing it again, and it's not the first time. So I just wanted,
Do you have a recommendation, Jennifer, as to how to address that?
Well, yeah.
I'd love to hear it.
Well, I'm not, I won't vote for it.
There's a recommendation right here that came from the staff and Mike, and they're saying they want to raise $675,000 in taxes, and they want to decrease expenditures by $300,000. They say we need to do that to make this budget balance and to build back the reserves a little bit. And it's going to take 10 years. So you guys, they're telling you that's what needs to be done, and you're saying you don't want to cut back. You're asking the people to pay more, and you don't want to cut back. I don't understand that. Personally, I think that $300,000 needs to be increased. If we're asking these people to pay $675,000 more in taxes, then the city's got to, what's the term they use? Global financial crisis, the GFC, baby. We're in it, and we're feeling it too. We're feeling the crunch.
But I think that's why we're all equally sitting here dialoguing about ways to cut. Can we cut from somebody besides people? Overall, constituents, residents, businesses, and employees. Give us some ideas, and we're going to go with it.
So I'm sorry, can I? So I personally, ever since the first draft of this came out, said that I was not in support of the increase in fees and taxes. And I do not want to, believe me, because I'm the one at this table who would micromanage the budget. And I'm willing to do that, and other people are not willing to do that. So I'm fine with being respectful of staff's, their expertise. They've run this city a long time. But, so I'm not going to sit here and micromanage. I got numbers. I can sit here and walk them through where I think we could do cuts, but I don't know. They know more about it than I do. I don't necessarily want to be in their business.
We look to you to do that. You've got a financial background. We look for that. We all have different backgrounds.
So Debbie, I heard from this committee that there is no desire to micromanage.
Well,
So
it's not
I
only-
stepped
and
back.
Let me interject here. It's not only is there no desire, it's not the role of city council.
Right, so how can I
So,
make
and
recommendations?
what I've said before is, this is the board meeting.
Right.
If you want to be part of the management meeting, you need to show up during 8 to 5 and join the staff.
Right.
This is where we're setting policy and direction.
Right.
And Pat, to your point, I understand the balancing act in terms of sacrifices, not only by the employees that have made the sacrifices over the last couple of years without any increases. And in fact, as Susie mentioned, overall compensation is going down as.
No, I understand that.
Overall compensation is not decreasing. It's very clear. Gross compensation has increased based on their benefits they're receiving. That was in the spreadsheet. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right. And here's what I believe. I believe based on everything that I know, we've got one more year of pain in this city. And then I believe that we will then begin to really come out of what we have been going through over the last several years. So I think if we can hold together on this budget resolution, if we can get up to 300,000 in additional cuts, if we can find a way to hold our fund balance steady at 1.3, then I think we can emerge through fiscal year 13 and be in pretty good shape, is my opinion. So, other comments, questions about the resolution? I am working towards a recommendation of what is here with the 2 amendments that have been offered up so far. Lawrence?
Yeah, I appreciate Pat's points he just made, some really good ones. 2 things I want to add into that from my perspective, different, may not be wrong or right, is one, as we've just discussed, we are a staff-driven, professional-driven city, and we rely on them to do a lot of the work. But at the end of the day, when the recommendation comes back to us, it's us who voted for it or didn't vote for it. So I don't think it's fair, I'm not saying Pat's suggesting this, but from my perspective, if I support this resolution, I can't go to someone and say, well, it wasn't me who did it, staff did it, because it was us that did it. The second thing, more specifically on Pat's comments, I hadn't gone through and added up the tax increases. I think you said 650.
I think I got that 675. I think that was from Mike Wood tonight. But before when I talked to him, and it hadn't changed.
Yeah. One of the things, I'm looking at the budget right now, and I'm trying to reconcile that number. I think one of the things that this latest version of the budget resolution helps us understand is I believe that 675 is covering both the capital side and the operations side. So the point I was hearing you make, and it was a good one, is that when it comes to balancing the budget, we have 2 choices: raise taxes, cut expenditures. And I heard you say, why are we raising more and cutting less? That at least it should be balanced, if not more cutting.
They have to be even, but I see a lot of disparity, and that's what I told Mike earlier at the last meeting. I'd like him to look at that and see if they could come back with different figures. They didn't. They stuck the same numbers in there, and which I expected.
That's a fair point, but from what I'm interpreting on the general fund, the operations of the city, is we are cutting more from our budget than we are raising taxes on the citizens. So, and I don't have the exact, I'm trying to make that up. It looks like
In
it's
the
not.
general fund, it would be roughly $130,000 that you're increasing in fees on the solid waste utility and $300,000 that you're reducing in
So
expenditures.
it's roughly 2 to 1, 1 raise, 2 to cut. And when it comes to infrastructure, that's a whole different ballgame because that's investments into the city.
Right.
You can always defer that and say, well, we're just not going to make the improvements.
Or make them.
Yeah, so in any event, I thought your point was excellent, Pat. I hadn't thought of it in that way, but I'm glad that Laura was able on the fly to give us that roughly 2 to 1.
And then you have the $450,000 on the stormwater ERU increase. And then if you were to increase, which I think you heard Mike say, the Mills and Drainage District 2, you pick up the rest of that balance on the infrastructure side. But if you leave it at 10.5 mils, then you're really looking at the $450,000. That would be the increase for the Johnson Drive interceptor.
Well, you've been uncharacteristically quiet. Any comments?
I'm not on the committee, I'm here listening.
All right.
If I have a comment, I will speak up.
All right, fair enough. Other comments from the committee? as it relates to this resolution. We'll look for a recommendation to take this resolution as amended, combining items 9 and 10 with the up to amount, and then the other one being the clarifying statement on the 3/8 cent sales tax.
Primarily,
Right.
I recommend taking it to council as it stands.
As it stands, with those amendments.
Correct. And let me caveat something for the record. There's not one person sitting at this table who's been on the council for several years or 3 months that wants to raise taxes on our citizens. It doesn't help anybody. But we've got an older city with infrastructure issues, and at some point, somebody's got to take the hard stand and start paying for things to get corrected. It's just a fact of life. It's running a business. It's not popular, it's just needed. Go ahead. Thank you.
Mr. Quinn?
No, I'm saying no the way it is.
Okay. Amy? So, good news is, this is no longer a mystery. When you have a 2-2 vote, what happens? So what's going to happen is,
Been there.
this budget resolution, just for those on the council that are simply listening, under new business at the city council meeting on Wednesday, I will bring this budget resolution up as is with the amendments that we discussed. So be prepared for that. I guess I'm willing to continue this conversation a little bit further if there are, but I don't get the sense that there are not amendments to this that you're ready to offer up to get it to a point where you would be agreeable with it. There's probably some more inherent things that are wrong with it, or and from your
You're talking to me personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, you
I
and Amy
could-
both, just because you're on the committee.
Yeah.
And I would much rather bring this up under finance administration, but the process is what it is.
Yeah, I understand.
It's pouring,
Yeah, I mean, if it was,
it's pouring, June.
if there was a little more parity between the taxing and the cutting, I'd feel more comfortable with it. But as far as sitting here and giving you figures, I mean, I could do that, but you're gonna get the same vote.
Sure.
You know, or maybe even worse, maybe 3-1. Because they're mine, they're just mine.
And that's
So
fine.
I'm counting on staff or Mike or whoever actually puts this stuff together, to look at that and say, yeah, we can do that. It's not gonna be comfortable, just like you said, with paying the taxes. Taking the cuts isn't comfortable either, it's just one of those things, hard thing to do, but any business has to do it when they're going through the problems we're going through right now with cash flow problems.
Okay. Amy, any parting comments on this budget resolution?
I don't think I have any more comments.
Okay. Well, it'll come up under new business. I will be making a motion on this budget resolution with the amendments that we discussed. And if you want to amend it at that time or offer any amendments, that's when we will do that.
I would just ask Dave.
Yeah.
Amy, if some of your numbers that you're doing number crunching and kind of coming up with some consolidated ideas, if they lend themselves to correlate to policy decisions eventually, I think the committee would be very happy to see something, if you're interested in.
Because that's not what I heard from Dave.
Well, I think there's a difference between
That I'm not-
micromanaging
We're
and
not supposed to be
sharing.
in the numbers, we're not supposed to be,
Well, I think there's
Well, not dollar by, I mean, I
Right.
think if you said, I see a threshold here of $100,000 that I can see, and I can give you some examples of how we can cut down to $40,000 by doing X, Y, Z, those become the policy issues that we then determine are
yeah, I
hopefully
mean,
best for
I
the
think
city.
I'd have to spend some significant time with staff to understand exactly what they're spending on and what it is before I could make, I think it would take us several hours of their time and my time to go through it. And I'd be in the minutia and in the weeds.
fair enough. All right.
Did you say minutia?
I said minutia.
All right, we will move on to item number 5, the Lane 4 pre-development agreement.